Look at you. Having had many of you in class, I've got to say, y'all clean up real nice. Please be seated. Good afternoon, friends, family, honored guests, faculty, and graduates. My name is Dan Tokaji, and I am the Dean of the University of Wisconsin Law School. I am deeply honored and privileged to welcome you all to our hooding ceremony. First and foremost, I want to congratulate our graduates. That's right. Congratulations. We are all so very proud of you and delighted to share this special moment with you. Next, I want to welcome all the graduates, family, friends, and loved ones. Today marks a special moment for all of you as well, for no one gets through something as difficult as law school alone. We all know how vital your support, your patience, your interest, and of course, your love have been to our graduates. They would not be here today without everything that all of you have done for them. You have every reason to be proud of today's graduates and proud of yourselves too for helping them get to this moment. So, graduates, our first order of business today is to recognize and express our thanks to these very important people whose contributions were essential to all of your success. So graduates, I ask you to stand as you are able to, there we go. You don't have to take orders from me for very much longer, but you do today. Turn to your friends and family and join me and our faculty in giving them a big round of applause. I also want to welcome family, friends, and loved ones streaming the ceremony online. Welcome. We are very excited you can join us virtually today. So I'm going to ask everyone on the stage to look at that camera behind the graduates, and graduates, you can do the same as well. Let's all wave our hands to the family and loved ones watching from around the U.S. and the world, and let's show some Wisconsin pride, huh? How about it? Let's see those W's, everybody. All right. Along with the stream, you can follow this year's ceremony on social media. We have a hashtag. It's hashtag UWLawGrad. And there it is, right on the screens on either side of the stage. We encourage everyone who's here and is so inclined to use that hashtag throughout the ceremony. You can also take a moment and even take a selfie of yourself and the people next to you. The hashtag will also work for tomorrow's big ceremony at Camp Randall for the university, for those joining us there for the UW commencement ceremony in the afternoon. I am also pleased and deeply honored to welcome our honored guests on the stage this afternoon. They are our keynote speaker, Chief Judge Pamela Pepper. Judge Pepper. Our faculty speaker and my friend, Professor Miriam Seifter. And please give it up for our student speakers who you'll hear more about shortly. That is Alex, Karen, and Tanvi. Also joining us on stage are my treasured colleagues, the University of Wisconsin Law School faculty and staff. As your teachers, mentors, guides, they have been with you on this journey. And they're very pleased to be sharing this day with all of you. When you transition from being our students to being our colleagues and friends for the rest of your lives, for the rest of your careers. There may also be some faculty and staff scattered amongst the crowd who are really happy to be here as well, but aren't so crazy about this, fancy attire that we're wearing. At this time, I invite all of our faculty and staff to stand as you are able and be recognized by our graduates. That includes those in the audience. And yeah, graduates, I should have said, you can sit down again. Thank you. Although this is a really happy day, graduation is always a little bit bittersweet for us because we're really going to miss you. And I have to say, I especially feel that way about this group, having had many of you as students in one of my classes. Some of you from your first year in law school, and how you have grown, how you have blossomed during that period of time. You have all made your way here, built communities of connection and commitment around you. Please, please, stay in touch with us. Email me, email the other faculty you formed a relationship to let us know about your successes or the challenges that you face along the way, because there will be plenty of those too. We very much look forward to hearing from you. All right, at this point, it is my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, the Honorable Judge Pamela Pepper. Yes, thank you. Judge Pepper serves as the Chief Judge on the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Wisconsin. She was the first woman to serve on that court, appointed in 2014. She has been serving as Chief Judge for the Eastern District for 5 years. Judge Pepper grew up in a small town in the Mississippi Delta. She graduated from Leland High School and was among the first racially integrated group of students to matriculate through that city's public schools, an experience highlighted in a documentary, The Harvest, Integrating Mississippi's Schools. Chief Judge Pepper earned her Bachelor's of Science degree from Northwestern and her JD from Cornell Law School. She's had an outstanding legal career. First serving as law clerk for Judge Rand Minnis Johnson of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit, then an assistant U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Illinois and later the Eastern District of Wisconsin. She also had a successful solo practice, practicing criminal defense law for 8 years. In 2005, the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals appointed her to serve as the judge of the bankruptcy court, as a judge of the bankruptcy court for the Eastern District of Wisconsin. She later served as chief judge of that court before her appointment to the federal district court. Throughout her career, Judge Pepper has dedicated herself to moving the legal profession forward and making that system better. She is a former member of the American Bankruptcy Institute and the National Conference of Bankruptcy Judges, where she had several leadership roles in both groups. She's a former member of the Bankruptcy Rules Committee of the Judicial Conference of the United States. She also completed 2 terms as associate editor of the American Bankruptcy Law Journal. Currently, she serves on the Administrative Office of the U.S. Court's IT Security Awareness Working Group, the 7th Circuit Judicial Council, and the Board of Directors at the Federal Judges Association. She frequently speaks at Federal Judicial Center events, including orientation programs for new judges, and has lectured on a diverse array of topics from rules of evidence, intersection of criminal and bankruptcy law, and litigation stills. And still, despite all that, she somehow found time in her schedule to speak to all of us today. I am so thrilled that our student graduation committee selected Chief Judge Pepper to be our keynote speaker in today's ceremony. Her rich career history and experience make her an exemplary choice to send off our graduates into the world. Please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Chief Judge Pamela Pepper.
I thought he was going to make y'all stand up through all that. And if he had, I would have asked for your tuition back if I were you. Good afternoon, graduates, friends, family, loved ones. Thank you for the honor of inviting me to play a small part in this celebration, even though it requires me to wear this stupid hat again. Congratulations to the graduates, and congratulations to all of those who have loved, supported, educated, and cheered you on during this journey. So I have a confession to make. I rarely am at a loss for words. I am, after all, a lawyer. But I have struggled to find the words for this occasion, at this moment in time. While we've gathered today to rightly celebrate and honor your achievements, we do so at a time when, to many of us, it feels like our country is fracturing. Americans are divided on everything from their presidential candidate of choice to how to end the horrors in Gaza, to the existential threat of climate change, to whether there is an immigration crisis, and if so, how to address it. And rather than talking to each other, trying to hear and understand each other, we are dismissing each other, attacking each other, calling each other out, and canceling each other. What has happened to our humanity? Is there any way, any hope for us to find our way back to each other? What could I possibly say in this moment to the newest generation of lawyers? Over the years, I have heard incredibly inspiring stories from great lawyers, legal scholars, and judges about their origin stories, what drew them to the legal profession. Well, my origin story is not remotely inspiring. I don't come from a family of lawyers. As the dean said, I grew up in a small town in the Mississippi Delta raised by 2 public school teachers. I knew precisely one lawyer, had no idea what kind of law he practiced, and didn't know anything about what lawyers did. I never aspired to become a lawyer. I wanted to be an actress. Specifically, Meryl Streep. And I majored in theater in undergrad. I can still hear my mama saying, "Can't you get a real degree and then do some community theater in your free time?" My junior year in college, our acting teacher told our class that acting was a very hard way to make a living, and that if we could think of any other career to pursue, we should. And that was, to say the least, disheartening. I had a classmate who wanted to go to law school, and she was spending her summer studying for the LSAT, so pretty much on a whim, I decided to study with her. Once I'd spent all that time studying for the test, I figured I may as well take it. I did well enough that it seemed worth applying to a few law schools, so I did, and I got accepted to a few. I ended up going to Cornell Law School in Ithaca, New York, for one reason. My Mississippi Delta school teacher parents could not afford to plunk down an acceptance deposit and then find out that I would not get any financial aid. And Cornell was willing to offer me a significant financial aid package before I had to put down the acceptance deposit. Once I got to Cornell, I found myself surrounded by people who had been inspired to go to law school by Abraham Lincoln, or who came from generations of lawyers, or who had known since they were 10 that they wanted to work at legal aid helping less fortunate people keep their apartments or get domestic restraining orders. There were people there who had structured their entire college class load around getting into Cornell Law School, who had fought and sacrificed to get in. Me? I bumbled and fumbled my way into a premier law school, not this premier, obviously, but with no clue of the privilege that I had been handed. I bumbled my way into the next stage of my legal journey, too. At some point, I started hearing classmates talk about clerkships. A clerkship did not sound particularly prestigious or exciting to me or to my parents, but all my classmates wanted one, so I applied for clerkships. Somebody told me that it was easier to get a clerkship in a place where you had a geographical connection, so I applied to judges in the South. One of the judges to whom I applied was Frank Menace Johnson, Jr. of Montgomery, Alabama, who then sat on the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. I did not realize that he was a civil rights giant. As a federal trial judge, he had ruled against segregated seating on city buses, in other words, 4 Rosa Parks, ordered Alabama counties to put black citizens on the voting rolls, ordered the desegregation of Alabama schools, overruled the law that was used to try to stop the march from Selma to Montgomery. He had received death threats, been ostracized, and had a cross burned on his mother's lawn. Oblivious to all that, I applied to clerk for Judge Johnson because he was a Southerner like me. Judge Johnson hired me, and I am so grateful to this day. Again, I had bumbled and fumbled my way into a year of learning at the feet of a man whose courage, intellect, conviction, and integrity are the stuff of legend. So, no inspirational origin story. I fumbled and bumbled my way into every step of my career through sheer luck and the generosity of others. So standing here before you today, I feel, as I often do, a bit of a fraud, an imposter. But while I may have stumbled onto a career path that many, including probably most all of you, chose with deliberation and care, at least I have sense enough to value the gifts that that career has given me. I have learned to love the law for many reasons. I like the intellectual challenge of trying to pick apart a knotty problem. I enjoy trying to craft a persuasive written argument. I like being part of a community of professionals who speak a common language. But the 2 things that I love most about the law are the things that it feels at this moment that Americans are losing. It's humanity and it's hope. The law can vindicate rights long denied. It can bring people together. It can give us a safe place to disagree and a path back to each other. Both the humanity and the hope of the law, I think, are illustrated in a case that all the lawyers in this room learned about in law school, but that has special personal meaning for me. In the early 1950s, the Topeka, Kansas Board of Education ran separate elementary schools, one for black students and one for white students. This was legal under Kansas law. It was also legal under the law of the land. 50 years earlier, in 1896, the United States Supreme Court had decided Plessy versus Ferguson, holding that as long as the facilities for black and white students were equal, state segregation did not violate the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. Oliver Brown was a welder and an assistant pastor at his church. His 3rd grade daughter had to walk several blocks to a bus stop and then ride the bus to her segregated black elementary school, even though there was a white elementary school 7 blocks from her house. The Topeka NAACP chapter enlisted Mr. Brown and other parents of black elementary school students to try to enroll their children in the neighborhood school that was closest to them. The parents were rejected and directed to black segregated schools. In 1951, 13 of those parents, including Oliver Brown, filed a class action lawsuit against the school district, demanding that it reverse its policy of racial segregation. After a trial, the district court ruled in favor of the school board, citing Plessy versus Ferguson. The district court judge actually found that segregated public schools had a detrimental effect on black children, but concluded that the black and white schools in Topeka had substantially equal buildings, transportation, teacher qualifications, and other characteristics. So the parents went to the United States Supreme Court. In the spring of 1953, Thurgood Marshall, who was then NAACP's chief legal counsel, though 13 years later he would be appointed the first black justice on the United States Supreme Court, argued the case for the plaintiffs. The justices, unable to make a decision, asked to rehear the case in the fall of 1953, and it took months for them to reach a consensus. But on May 17th, 1954, 70 years ago next week, in Brown versus Board of Education, the United States Supreme Court issued a unanimous decision in favor of the Brown family and the other plaintiffs. Justice Earl Warren wrote the decision, concluding that, quote, "In the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. Separate educational facilities are inherently unequal. Therefore, we hold that the plaintiffs and others similarly situated for whom the actions have been brought are, by reason of the segregation complaint, deprived of the equal protection of the laws guaranteed by the 14th Amendment." Close quote. Now, those of you who are graduating today likely spent some time dissecting Brown, parsing the language and the reasoning, discussing the decision's place in the court's 14th Amendment equal protection jurisprudence, analyzing how the court made its peace with overruling its own precedent and discarding Plessy versus Ferguson. But behind that rhetoric, there was a very human story. There were parents, like Oliver Brown, who hoped for something better for their children and turned to the law in realizing that hope. There were children, like Oliver Brown's daughter, who deserved a wider world than the one that she was allowed to inhabit. For a long time, I didn't realize that before I ever stumbled on a career in the law, the legacy of Brown was a through line in my own life. I mentioned, as did the dean, that I grew up in the Mississippi Delta. I want to be clear. I grew up in a very small town, city. It was not a city. It was a very small town in the middle of a cotton field in the very segregated Mississippi Delta. That town was segregated in every way. There was a railroad track bisecting it in one direction and a creek bisecting it in the other. Black families lived on one side of the tracks or the creek, white families on the other. Black families went to black churches, white families went to white churches, and even though, and I'm going to date myself here so you forget this later, even though I was born 10 years after Oliver Brown and the other families won their lawsuit in the Supreme Court, black children in my hometown still went to black schools, and white children went to white schools. Now, how can that be, you might ask? Well, in the 1954 Brown decision, the court did not order the Topeka schools to integrate. Instead, it asked the parties to come back the next term to present arguments on an appropriate remedy. The result was a decision that came to be known as Brown 2. In Brown 2, the Supreme Court tasks the federal trial courts, like the one on which I now serve, with carrying out desegregation with all deliberate speed. But the Brown 2 court did not define all deliberate speed, leaving schools and courts to determine for themselves what it meant. Many Southerners were deeply critical of the Brown decisions and went to great lengths to avoid them. Some Southern schools closed rather than integrate. Others fired or laid off teachers, principals, and school staff in black schools and replaced them with white staff. My home state of Mississippi interpreted all deliberate speed as an indefinite timeline and simply ignored the Supreme Court's rulings. And in 1963, Medgar Evers sued to desegregate the schools in Mississippi's capital city of Jackson, and the result was that he was murdered by a member of the White Citizens Council, and the first two trials of the man accused of his murder ended in hung juries. It would take another 15 years and another Supreme Court decision, Alexander versus Holmes County Board of Education, to force the schools in my hometown to integrate. The Alexander decision did away with that all deliberate speed language, ordering every school district to, quote, terminate dual school systems at once and to operate now and hereafter only unitary schools, close quote. That decision came down in October 1969, just months before I was to start first grade. The year that I began first grade was the year the first class of Mississippi's first graders attended an integrated school system. My parents were concerned about the dangers of this new integrated public school, particularly public reaction, so they sent me to an all-white private school the first few years. But in middle school, I transferred to the public school, and it opened the door to a new world for me. It introduced me to people who had been living minutes away from me my entire life, but on the other side of the tracks or the creek, attending the other churches and the other school. Though many Southerners had gone to extreme lengths, including murder, to keep white children and black children from going to school together, for me, it was a gift. I sat side by side every day with people who experienced the world differently, thought about the world differently, and it made my life infinitely richer. I would go on to college, law school, and a career that allowed me to meet so many more people from different worlds and different backgrounds, people of different faiths, races, nationalities, political persuasion, sexual orientation, and to find friends among all of them. I would clerk for a judge who risked his life to uphold the principles that undergirded the decisions in Brown. I would eventually end up a judge myself and have the honor and the responsibility of upholding those same principles. That decision 70 years ago, the one that started with parents who hoped for more for their children, made all that possible. That decision introduced me and my classmates from that little school in the Mississippi Delta to each other's humanity and gave us hope for a future in which that humanity was more important than our differences. That hope has not been fully realized. Race remains one of the issues that divide us. There is much work to be done, and perhaps one lesson I've learned is that as much as I love the law alone cannot complete that work. But in a moment where it feels like we're losing our humanity and our hope, I know, because I have lived it, that our profession has the capacity to restore them. You don't have to be a Thurgood Marshall or have a part in a case like Brown. Real humans will turn to you for help. You have the skills and the authority to guide them toward their humanity, to try to open dialogue and foster communication and empathy. You will have the chance every day to use your talents and the tools that this school has given you for good, for healing, and for understanding. You will have the opportunity to leave a legacy of humanity and of hope. I have hope that you will. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Judge Pepper, for sharing your story and sharing your inspiration with the graduates and with all of us. I next want to draw your attention to the written program for today's event. You may have noticed that it includes many awards and recognitions that our graduates received while at the law school. We don't have time to mention each one of these achievements individually, but they should not go unnoticed. So I encourage you to read about them if you haven't already, and for you to join me now in congratulating all of those so recognized for their exceptional achievements. Our graduating students choose from among their classmates who will serve as their speakers. And our first speaker from the JD graduating class is Alex Kaplan. Alex, yeah, Alex. Here we go. Alex earned his bachelor's degree in political science from Kenyon College in Ohio. After graduating, he worked in a variety of small businesses and tech startups. He has been exceptionally active during his time at UW Law. He served as president of Moot Court, which is a mock appellate advocacy experience helping students develop their skills and earn credit while doing so. It's one of the law school's most popular co-curricular activities, and it is a cornerstone of our devotion to producing great advocates. I'm pleased to say that our Moot Court program took major strides during his time as president. Alex is also a wonderful friend and colleague to his classmates. He recognizes and promotes their successes in and out of the classroom, posting them on social media, recognizing all of you who do or did something special. He also is a fierce advocate on things that matter, and I can vouch for this personally, since I am occasionally on the receiving end of his advocacy. He's already, I can tell you, a terrific lawyer. I've been very impressed, seriously, with how Alex addresses complicated situations, takes time to understand the perspectives of everybody involved, and through it all maintains an amazing sense of humor. I know his classmates share my feelings about Alex, for they elected him to be one of today's student speakers. Please join me in welcoming again our first student speaker from this year's graduating JD class, Alex Kaplan.
Right at the beginning of 1L, Ben had some people over. And we didn't know each other, so we used the icebreaker, "What's your red flag?" One of my friends said his red flag is that he came to law school to change the world. My other friend openly says she's here for the money. That's okay too. The world's a scary place, and if you're not born with a safety net, then build one. I came to law school because I did not know what else to do. And that's the case for more of us than we care to admit. But it doesn't matter why we came. We're leaving and becoming lawyers, but there's still this implied difference between people who are doing good and people who are selling out. The people going into public defense, family law, representing plaintiffs get to claim the Save the World title. And those of us going into big law get branded as selling out. It comes down to how rich are your clients. The problem for the Save the World folks is that's not the job. We're not here to save the world. We're here to help people with their problems. People are going to come to us and say, do I really have to do all this stuff the law says? And we say, yeah, sorry, that'll be $100. It's easy, I think. I don't know. I've never been a lawyer before. Of course, the real answer is, it depends. That's always the answer. We get paid because it depends, because of the wiggle room and our ability to navigate our clients through it. Just how much does the client have to do in order to fulfill their legal obligations or fly under the radar unnoticed? How much can the corner be cut before there's a consequence? All of the clients, rich or not, want to get what they want as easily as possible. That's not unique to any class of client. That's human nature. So the question's not, are your clients rich? The question is, how gray is too gray for you? We can't control the client and we can't control the political process. The client might not do the right thing every time. The client probably never does the right thing. The political process will do what it does or it won't. All we can do, we have an obligation to do the best work for our client, and we also have an obligation to tell them where the line is. That's what they pay us for, and that's our opportunity to make a positive or a negative impact. So if you're working for the big bad corporation and you advise them to take their OSHA obligation seriously, you're making a difference. Even if they don't take your advice, you said the right thing to a powerful person behind closed doors. They had to decide to ignore your advice. It's a very small step, but it's a step in the right direction nonetheless. And if you're doing criminal law or family law, you're always interacting with people on one of the worst days of their lives. No one calls a lawyer because things are going well. It's a day at work for you, but it's the client's freedom or family at stake. Just being good at your job is how you make a difference. It's not about changing the world. What does that mean? How many lives do you have to impact to change the world? Between 1 and a billion? It's a meaningless, amorphous, feel-good phrase. It's not actionable, and it's not any one person's responsibility. All you can do is move the ball forward an inch or two, regardless of what type of law you practice or who your clients are. We can push things in the right direction just a little by taking our responsibilities to the client and the legal profession seriously, by knowing our own lines, and by having the backbone to stand up for our position when the time comes. You're the expert in the room. The state of Wisconsin said so. You're there because the client needs to know what you think, and you don't help someone by telling them what they want to hear. So tell them the truth. Get comfortable looking someone in the eye and saying, no, you shouldn't do that. Or maybe, that would expose you to legal liability. Say it however you want. They didn't teach us that part of the job, but learn to say it. Because helping your client probably means keeping them out of trouble, which probably means not letting them negatively impact the world and the people around them. And if you can manage to do that, both the client and the world will thank you for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex, for those thoughtful comments and the great advice. Speaking of making a difference, a big part of our mission as a law school is to prepare our students to be advocates for justice. Service is an integral part of our profession, and it is at the core of the Wisconsin idea. To reinforce the importance of service to other people, the law school has a wide range of activities, student organizations, and co-curricular programs in which our students participate. I would now ask every student who received a service award, who is involved in a student organization, a co-curricular activity, or a service activity at the law school, to stand as you are able. Don't be shy. Please join me in recognizing all the hard work of these graduates. Very good. So if you didn't already know, you now see with your own eyes what an engaged, enthusiastic, and idealistic group of graduates we have. We recognize, and we are honored to recognize, all you've done in law school, and we're looking forward to hearing about all you will do in the future. All right, it's now time for our second student speaker, our second and final JD speaker, Karen Perez Wilson. She is, yeah. All right. She's no stranger to the vast number of extracurricular activities UW Law has to offer because she has participated in so many of them. So during her time in law school, Karen was a member of the Student Bar Association, La Alianza, the Women's Law Student Association, First Generation Lawyers, and Q Law. She was also a student ambassador and a clinical student in our Restorative Justice Project. Yeah, how about that, huh? She came to our community at the law school after having served as a bilingual paraeducator in the Middleton School District, and before that, she graduated with a bachelor's degree from UW-Madison in legal studies. Yeah. We've got a few double badgers in the house, I guess, huh? Throughout law school, she has been extraordinarily generous with her time and absolutely dedicated, passionate about equality, access to justice, and serving people who are less powerful and more vulnerable to having their basic rights denied. This passion for justice will surely be fuel for Karen when she joins Centro Hispano as an immigration attorney. I know that she is going to do great things and help many, many people who very much need her help. Please join me in welcoming Karen to the podium.
Thank you, Dean Takaji. I want to thank you, class of 2024, for trusting me to deliver this speech. It meant the world to me that you chose me to do this. I also want to express my gratitude to my peers for advocating for language accessibility for today's hooding ceremony. People came together to make it possible for non-English speaking families like mine to feel a part of our great celebration. This accomplishment is not only ours, it's our whole community's. Hoy todo el pueblo se gradúa. Buenas tardes, faculty, distinguished guests, loved ones, and most importantly, you, class of 2024. It is an honor and a privilege to stand before you as a first-generation Mexican immigrant. When I reflect on my life and my 12 years of being in higher education, I never imagined that I would have the opportunity to address such a momentous occasion. It's not that I didn't believe in myself, but rather that the societal barriers that I faced made it seem like I didn't stand a chance. I am proud to be here, and I'm thrilled to share this day with you. Today is more than a ceremony to me, as I'm sure it is for many of you. Today is significant because it represents the breaking of a generational cycle and the achievement of a dream I was told as an undocumented student would be impossible to accomplish. Though we took different journeys to get here, we arrived at the same destination. Our presence here today is product of our determination, effort, and desire to be here. I hope by now you know that nothing was given to you. You earned this. I also want to recognize that no one succeeded alone. The courage and guidance of the people before us and those around us paved the way for you and me to be here. Personally, being here is testament of the resilience and hard work of immigrants everywhere. I have my family in attendance today, and for them, this is their first law school graduation. I knew I was gonna cry. I would give anything to know what my parents are thinking at this moment, and I know if I look over there, I'm gonna just start bawling. Growing up, my parents would tell me, Karen, stay in school so you won't be like me. I never liked that statement, but I understood what they meant. My parents came to this country with nothing, but gave me everything. Though my mom didn't have the opportunity to graduate from high school and my dad the 6th grade, I hope that by now I have convinced them that being like them has been key to every accomplishment. Their tenacity, work ethic, ambition, and perseverance, those are things that my parents and mi comunidad taught me. My parents' ceiling was my floor, and for that I will always be grateful. I hope you can find time to reflect and think of the people that supported you here. I want to leave you with a few lessons I learned through my journey towards the JD. As I joined the 2% of Latina attorneys, I plan to carry these lessons with me, and I hope you do too. Let me bring this down so you can really hear me. Lesson number 1, loss and rejection are disappointing. But remember that what's meant for you is already yours. Make peace with that and trust that rejection is redirection. I have heard no countless of times, but the one yes is what got me here, what changed my life, and what changed the course of my family's future. Lesson number 2, abundance is created through an attitude of gratitude. Stay grateful, have humility, create opportunity for those that follow. Don't secure a seat at the table and then close the door on the person behind you. All of you are going to be ancestors one day. Act accordingly. Thank you. Lesson number 3, there will be moments in your life and your career where you are going to step out of your comfort zone. And when that happens and imposter syndrome starts to creep in, I hope you remember it is scary because it's unfamiliar, not because you're not capable. Lesson number 4, the world is dark and scary, and in a few moments you're going to be walking out of these doors with a law degree, a privilege a few people have. You must decide what side of history will you be on. Will you use your law degree to make this world a better place, or will you stand in the way of liberation and freedom for all? As you embark on this journey, I hope that you remember the words of Asma Mali, who said that speaking up for the things that align with your values doesn't ruin your career. It clears the way for you to have an ethical one. Even if you think you're not affected by the atrocities that are happening in the world, I can assure you, you are affected, and you should care, because our liberations are bound to one another. Lastly, remember what you wanted is what you now have. I hope you can look back today and throughout your life and honor the journey and not just the reward. Thank you for being a part of my journey. It's been an honor being a part of yours.
Thank you, Karen, for sharing with us all the amazing journey that has brought you to this point. And I know there are many more amazing things for you and for the people you will serve in your future. Our final student speaker, representing our graduate students, is Tanvi Katkar. Tanvi was born in India and received her bachelor's in science and electronics and her bachelor's in law from, and she helped me say this beforehand, so it's entirely my fault if I botch it, the name of her undergraduate institution, Savitribai Phule Pune University. Yeah. After receiving her LLB, Tanvi worked as an assistant advocate at R.G. Shaw and Associates in India. She spent 2 years there working with clients in every phase of litigation before coming here to UW Law, and we're so glad that she did. She's a student, or has been a student, in our graduate program, which offers law degrees to individuals who already have one, mostly from institutions outside the United States. Now, you all know, law school is challenging under the best of circumstances, but especially so when it is in a country to which you are relatively new. It is amazing what our graduate students, our master's and doctoral students have accomplished to get here today. Well done to you all. Tanvi was selected by her classmates to serve as the graduate student speaker, and after graduation, she will work at the Darrow Law Office in Sheboygan County. So please join me in welcoming our graduate student speaker, Tanvi.
respected faculty, esteemed guests, and fellow graduates. As I stand before you today, I'm filled with a profound sense of gratitude and humility. It's a privilege to address this esteemed gathering on behalf of my fellow LLM graduates, representing diverse cultures, backgrounds, and aspirations. This program helped us learn the American legal system. Thank you to all the professors for teaching us so patiently. But our LLM journey has been about more than just academic rigor. Walking to the class in snow to hitting a deer way back home. For me, the last 2 semesters were full of numerous experiences. But believe me, answering questions in lectures was scarier. We have learned not only from our professors, but also from each other, gaining insights into legal systems, practices, philosophies from around the world. We have deepened our appreciation for the interconnectedness of our global community. As Christopher Darden once said, I chose to go to law school because I thought someday, somehow, I would make a difference. We have chosen a path that is not merely a career, but a calling. Calling to stand up for what is right, to advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves, and to uphold the principle of justice upon which a society is built. It is a calling that requires unwavering dedication and boundless compassion. Whether we return to our home country or embark a new adventure here, let us strive to make a positive impact in the legal profession and society. I would like to thank my parents and my sisters Gauri and Harshada, who couldn't be here today. Thank you to my in-laws who made it here. Special thank you to my husband and daughter, my greatest cheerleaders throughout this journey. Thank you to Dean Jason, Monique, Dean Moji, and Ben for your help and support. Last but not the least, congratulations to class of 2024. We did it.
Thank you so much, Tanvi. I am now extremely pleased to introduce our final speaker, Professor Miriam Seifter, the Rowe Faculty Fellow in Regulatory Law. Professor Seifter is a prolific scholar and has established herself as one of the nation's leading experts on administrative law and state democracy. She received her bachelor's degree with honors from Yale, a master's with distinction from Oxford, and as if that weren't enough, her JD magna cum laude from Harvard Law School. Yeah, how about that? After law school, she served as a clerk for Chief Judge Merrick Garland on the DC Circuit, and as if that weren't enough, then as a law clerk for Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the Supreme Court of the United States. Before joining the UW Law faculty, she was a visiting researcher and adjunct professor at Georgetown Law School and worked in private practice at Munger, Tolles & Olson in San Francisco. In partnership with another UW Law professor, Rob Yablon, Professor Seifter created the State Democracy Research Initiative about 3 years ago, which seeks to advance research and dialogue on state-level democracy, government institutions, and public law nationwide. Now, in the legal academy, sadly, federal legal issues tend to get a lot more attention than state legal issues. But those of us who have practiced know that most of the action is actually in state courts, although they receive much less attention from the academy. So the initiative, the State Democracy Research Initiative, has really played an instrumental role serving as a much needed resource for courts, for policymakers, for advocates, for other researchers, and for the general public. This initiative has already achieved amazing success in its first 3 years. Professors Seifter and Yablon have played a leading role in highlighting and elevating scholarly attention to state institutions, including state courts, and state law, including state constitutions. Her scholarly excellence was just in the past month recognized yet again as the American Constitution Society selected her as the 2024 Ruth Bader Ginsburg Scholar. Yeah. This award recognizes an outstanding scholar who demonstrates scholarly excellence, the ability to imagine how society might become more just, and the determination to realize that vision, as Professor Seifter has been doing. On top of being a national star among legal scholars, Professor Seifter is also an amazing teacher. She is popular and she is beloved by our students. She has won the UW Law Classroom Teacher of the Year award every year she's been eligible for that honor. In 2018, she received UW-Madison's Distinguished Teaching Award, an honor bestowed on only 5 faculty members from the entire campus. I am really honored and privileged to share the stage with Professor Seifter, our treasured and beloved colleague. Please join me in welcoming her.
Thank you so much. Chief Judge Pepper, Dean Takagi, colleagues, friends, families, and most importantly, to the amazing graduates of the class of 2024, thank you so much for having me. It is a joy to be part of your day. When I thought about what I would say to you today, I asked myself, what can I tell you that will last? Not, it turns out, a lot of what we taught you in law school. My property law alums know that the rule against perpetuities is mostly a relic of the past. Those of you who took admin law know the Chevron doctrine may not be long for this world. When you all started law school, Roe versus Wade was still the law of the land. Law is always changing, and we live at a time of accelerated change. So recapping highlights of legal doctrines here would not stand the test of time. And sadly, I'm not allowed to call on you anymore, though I know you do wonderfully. I do have one lesson that is forever. It is really one that you taught us too, rather than just the other way around. And here it is. No matter what you do with your career, no matter what you do in life, the most valuable currency you have will be your community. You know, every class that graduates from this law school is special, but your class is very special. COVID rocked our law school. You showed us what it was like to be together again. From running down the field of Camp Randall in the fall, gracefully, to donning those fabulous glasses and watching the eclipse together last month, yours is a class of community. And community is the thing that will last throughout your legal career and your life. You will have times in your life when you love your job, when it gets you out of bed in the morning and fills you up during the day. Those are the times when you think those writers who said you'll never wish you spent more time at the office are wrong because you have so much great work to do and a whole world to change. You will have days when you are okay with your job, but are also really looking forward to playing games on your phone, something you never did in class. You will have days when you think it may be time for a new job. Through all of this, your community will be your constant. But how do you keep it going? You're going to graduate and scatter. Maybe find a new place to live. It might be tempting to put your head down, maybe to put a fence up. Let me instead offer a different vision. Many of you have probably read the book The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein, yes? A boy befriends a tree, but each time he visits, he takes more and more from her, apples, branches, trunk, until she is just a stump. The book keeps repeating this refrain, and the tree was happy. And yet you can't help but think that's not the kind of happiness that we or the tree really want. Well, the image I want to give you is the opposite of the boy's actions. Your community is a thing you give to and build every year. It keeps growing bigger until you have a whole tree canopy of community that supports and sustains you. Now, how do you build that canopy? They say people, students, remember things best when they come in threes. But you guys are pros now, so let me offer 4 essential components of the community canopy you will build. I'll be brief on the first 3. You know these ones already. First, thank your people. Make sure the people who are closest to you know how much you value them. These are the roots of your tree. Keep those bonds strong. If there is someone who helped you make it through law school, parents, friends, family, you might want to leave this graduation hall today and thank them. More importantly, call them next week, too. Is there someone important in your life you didn't talk to enough during law school? Maybe see when they are free next. If you have a partner or spouse who has been there for you, thank them. If hypothetically your spouse is the kindest person you know and has made you laugh out loud every day for the past 15 years or so, you should tell him how much you appreciate him, preferably in front of your 2,000 closest friends. The second principle of our canopy of community: keep adding branches. I have heard Justice Jill Karofsky of the Wisconsin Supreme Court say, you can never have too many good people in your life. And that is just it. There is no ceiling above our canopy. There is no fence blocking our branches. Now, sometimes you're going to have to put yourself out there. You may be in a new workplace starting this summer or fall. Maybe you will be the one to say, hey, let's get coffee after work. When I was a law firm associate, there was a partner who used to constantly walk the hallways asking if anyone wanted to grab coffee, and I thought, gosh, she is caffeinated. But now I see what she was doing. Maybe you will start a regular basketball game like some of you did your 1L year. Or maybe you will start a basketball team with people you barely know, including some very old people, and it might turn out to be a blast. Whatever your thing is, remember, never too many good people. Let the branches grow and grow. Third principle, find common ground. Make sure your community includes people who are different from you and who disagree with you. This, of course, gets us close to a difficult issue in our time, which is whether there are some people whose views cross a personal line for you where you feel you just can't. But today I'm asking a different and easier thing. Think of how many people that leaves in. Start with non-lawyers. They are great. Consider the Bears fans. Seek out people with different backgrounds and opinions and policy views and habits and find common ground. In important moments in history, it has often been surprising coalitions that make progress together. And it is often the friendships you don't expect that teach you the most. I will say that as preparation for this part of the talk, I watched a few episodes of Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg's potluck dinner party, kind of an example of a surprising friendship, not exactly what I had in mind. I did learn some new recipes. Okay, those first 3 principles are all things you knew before law school. I offer them just as friendly reminders. Here's the 4th piece of community, which I hope has been amplified by your legal education. It requires a brief story. Some of you have met my daughter, Rose, an indomitable life force to be reckoned with. I've heard people say that one of the benefits of being a law professor is that you don't really have a direct boss. I have a boss. She's just 8 and a Swiftie. A few years ago, Rose learned how to read, and that meant that, among other things, she could read the signs of unhoused people. Rose has been fortunate in her young life, and this new knowledge upset her, as it should. We were in a grocery store parking lot the first time this happened, and a person's sign simply said, "I'm hungry." And Rose grabbed my arm and said, "Mommy, you can't just walk on by." And again, more forcefully, "You can't just walk on by." These moments of wisdom from kids sear in a way that nothing else does. And we went home and made a meal and brought it back to the appreciative person, and that process has repeated itself over the years. Obviously, we did not solve the problem of homelessness. And I, a property professor no less, understand that my efforts are not sufficient. But Rose's line stays with me, as I hope it will with you. You can't just walk on by. You now have a legal education. You too can read the signs. As a lawyer and a friend and a family member and a human being, You are going to see people who are struggling and need help. In many cases, you will not be able to solve the problem in full, at least not right away. But what we hope you will do with your law degree is realize you do the thing you can do: a pro bono case, a helpful introduction, a phone call, some of your time, a shared sense of humanity and dignity, a helping hand. At its best, our profession is a helping profession. Try to help. You can't just walk on by. So to recap, your class, the class of community, will not cut down the trees in the forest and take all their apples. You will build a life-sustaining canopy of community. And to do that, you will thank your people, keep adding branches, find common ground, and you won't just walk on by. And the graduates, we're happy, for real. Congratulations, class of 2024. We are very proud of you.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you for being such a wonderful teacher, and thank you for all that you give to our community. I want to call your attention to the cardinal red stoles that some of our graduates are wearing today. These graduates are graduating with high academic honors, having consistently excelled in their studies here at UW Law School. We have additional academic recognitions that honor student performance in a particular class or field, as well as a Dean's List recognition that students can earn on a semester-by-semester basis for their academic achievements. A description of all of these honors can be found in your program. At this time, I'd like to recognize all the students who've received academic honors and awards, asking you to stand as you're able. If you're wearing a cardinal red stole, if you were recognized with an academic award, if you've ever been on Dean's List, I invite you to stand as you're able so that we can recognize you for your hard work and achievement. As your teachers, and this goes for every single one of you, as your teachers and now your colleagues, we are so proud of you. As the graduates' families, friends, and loved ones, we imagine you're even prouder. So please, one more time, feel free to show it. All right, we now come to a special time in the program, presenting our degree graduates with their hoods. This symbolic process publicly demonstrates that you have completed your degrees. The colors on the hood represent both the graduate's field of study and the university from which you earned your degree. The purple represents law, and the red represents Wisconsin, in case you didn't know. If you look at the regalia of the faculty on stage, you'll see that the hoods are of different colors representing the different universities that we all attended to earn our law degrees. Now, it may be a while before you have a chance to wear these fancy costumes again, but if you do, and if it's properly chosen, and anybody who cares to figure it out, they'll be able to tell from that regalia that your highest degree was a law degree and that you earned it from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Yeah, darn right. So, okay, here's what's going to happen next. Our graduates are going to stand row by row as directed by the ushers. You're going to head for the stage as directed, and you'll be presented by degree type in alpha order and last name. We will start with our JD students, our student speakers, and then our graduate students. When you come to the stage, you should all have a card. Please give it to the staff. Your name will be read, at which time you'll step up to the faculty members on stage who will present your hood to you. If you're confused, just follow what the people in front of you are doing. Not always a good rule for life, but in this case it should work. They'll put that hood over your head to complete your regalia. 2 graduates will be hooded at the time, and you'll see some marks on the stage that you can follow for that. After that, our Cracker Jack staff will help make sure that your hood looks perfect, as mine seldom does. And then each graduate will proceed off the stage to the photo area, where we'll have professional photographers, so you see right here, take your pictures for posterity. Now, this is a celebratory moment, as your family, friends, and loved ones all recognize, and we want you all to enjoy it in the way that suits you best. Feel free to cheer, make noise, be silent, or take photos. This is your moment too. The images, by the way, taken by our professional photographers will be made available afterwards for purchase if you wish, but you're also welcome to take your own. We've got plenty of space up here, and we invite you to come up to the front. We just ask that you do so when your graduate is coming up, so we don't have too much of a log jam up here. Please approach the area when your graduate's last name is going to be called, and after they're done, and after you've snapped your photos, return to your seats so that others can do the same. We ask also that you keep the aisles clear so that graduates can return to their seats and we don't get in any trouble with the fire marshals. Once all of the graduates have been hooded, we ask that all guests take their seats for the closing and recessional. Finally, I want to let you know that Professor Seifter has graciously agreed to close the ceremony for me. Unfortunately, I have a family funeral that I need to attend, so I'm going to have to fly off immediately. Well, I have to leave right now to catch my flight. But I want to tell you all how proud I am of all of you. Especially having, gotten to know so many of you over the past 3 years or whatever it's been. You really are, as Professor Seifter said, a very special group, dear to my heart. I am really proud of everything that all of you, whether I've gotten a chance to know you personally or not, have done to make it to this day. I also want you to know that despite the fact that your time as a student at our law school may be over, you are always, today and for the rest of your careers and lives, part of our community, that community that you heard Professor Seifter so meaningfully speak about. Please come back. Please use the resources that we offer to graduates and other attorneys. Please keep us apprised of all your successes as well as those challenges that you will face in the future. We look forward to hearing from you over and over again. We really do. Let me tell you, there is nothing that is more satisfying to us as teachers, and I know I speak for all of my colleagues up here, when we hear from you, sometimes a few months, sometimes many years after you graduate, about what you're up to. So please keep in touch with us. All right. With that, pay attention to the ushers. Let's start the hooding, everybody. Woo!
John Adam. Jacqueline Adamicki. Muhammad Ahmad. Talal Al-Kurdi. Kennedy Allison. Elliot Ambort. Estefany Archilla. John Ailing. Arman Badihi. Mackenzie Bailey. Aubrey Bailey. Jenna Balsiger. Thomas Baraldi. Farouz Biramoni. Nick Barshot. Sydney Baumeister. Alex Becker. Mackenzie Becker. Montana McClellan Beeson. Jessica Biggett. Rebecca Bizzoni. Caitlin Blaine. Julian Blecking. Morgan Block. Philip Bolt. Alexandria Brown. Lily Broyles. Jared Brudick. Calder Bish. Omar Cancillo. Sarah Cannon. Alexander Castro. Valerie Caesar. Talila Charles. Jasmine Teresa Chin. John Chick. James Simmermansik. George Carlo Clark. TJ Clark. Abigail Clemens. Sam Cobb. Michael Conlon Brandenburg. Elena Connolly. Gita Connolly. Cesar O. Contreras. Amber Cornelio. Jeffrey Crawl. Colin Crosswhite. Machet Cherlanko. Lydia Dahl Nogar. Edward J. Dance. James Cameron Davies. Alec D. Alyssa Dorman. Emily Dozer. Claudia Drace. Karen Duffy. Sean Dugan. Anna Eager. Aaron Earlywine. Lucas Eberhardt. Nathaniel Edwards. Christopher Anthony Fabrizio. Lauren Felder. Hunter Fight. Hannah Fontaine. Alexander Font. Will Fox. Alexander Friedrich. Samuel Valentine Bender Fritz. W. Kaler Fruckman. Armando Garcia Jr. Michael Garcia. Jacob Robert Gardner. Natalie Gastovich. Nicholas Andrew George. Taylor Gilbertson. Amy Gilson. Samuel Goley. Stephen Getch. Clayton Getz. Alex Gordon. Thomas Gordon. Matt Gullickson. Kelsey Gunvalson. Justice Hagberg. Shane Hardy. Ben Harp. Taylor Hatrich. You're awesome. Emma Hawley. Amber Heidenreich. Natalia Hernandez. Charlie Heyer. Rita Hirami. Katrina Hockholzer. Adam Hafes. Kayla Holmes. Richard Hong. Tony Houston. Caitlin Hunt. Anthony Isaac. Andrew Jameson. Tenzin Jashar. Rachel Johnson. Farah Kaner. Kendall Karen. Madison Kelly. Jody Clogus. Cole Cobell. Madeline Coingetter. Don Coe. Cooper Coleman. Nicholas Cram Mendelson. William Krentz. Sarah Kelbs. Teresa Rose Kulik. Braden Kundert. Franny Labuda. Jackson Larson. Neha Lashari. Kevin Lee. Benjamin Levy. Cassidy Quinn Lewis. Annika Lilligard Barton. Davis Logan. Tracy Liu. Denise Ma. Austin Mango. Anna Malcolm. Daniel Manzur. Lynn Mao. Matthew Parker Marcin. Valeria Martinez. Zachariah McGugan. Elizabeth McIntyre. Mary Catherine McKillop. Charlotte Meltzer. Meyer. Carter Mickelson. Patrick Miller. Kyle Minden. Lillian Miosi. Aisha Mo Linval. James Mose. Tomas Molina. Lily Milrath. Blair Murphy Potask. Mercedes Murray. Sophia Nikolic. Akuvi Novoji Evans. Mallory Norden. Quincy Aben. Christian Orline. Stephen Olson. Danielle Ori. Emily Ott. Keita Ottman. Kathleen Parker. Kinnari Patel. Milan Pavlich. Richardson Pay. Caroline Pellegrini. Rosario Perez Guerra. Anna Pasella. Veronica Camille Peterson. Matthew Promotzik. Lily Pent. Ami Punatar. Andrew Quay. Ramin Retza Rajari. Julia Redlinger. Casey Reese. Rosemary Renero. Avery Rainick. Haley Rich. Cherie Rivas. Sarah Ross. Quinn Rumler. James Ryan. Evan Sadlin. William Sandberg. Clay Schlichting. Jack Schneider. Joseph D. Shue. Ani Schwab. Matthew Schwimmer. James Segee Wright. Zachary Shapiro. Jung Un Shin. Amy Scherzel. Matthew Schulman. Isaiah Simon. Andrew Siranko. Claire Skivington. Captain Riley Slattery, U.S. Air Force. James Sue. Timothy Sperlin. Ari Sternberg. Natalie Stevens. Catherine Sticklin. Michaela Strang. Gabrielle Struick. Madeline Stewart. Lucas Patrick Sturzel. Nicholas Surprise. Morgan Sweeney. Elisa Pakowitz. Ashley Ann Tedford and Hawaii. Bennett Thering. Miranda Tichareva. Samuel Tooley. Joshua Topol. David Trice. Thomas Trethaway. James Twig. Julia Valgento. Olivia Vandehei. Caitlin Vasington. Sarah Maureen Verzel. Berenice Villalobos. Christina Lee Villalovas. Miguel Villanueva. Jennifer Viramontes. The first one. Alexandria Virginsky. Jim Wagner. Derek Wadig. Michaela Weesey. Michael Williams. Ned Willig. Alex Witz. Elizabeth Wodowitz. Ethan Woyak. Alexander Yee. Jonathan Young. Laura Yers. John Andrew Zordani. Jalen Zubich. Emina Zukic. Savannah Zuzik. Oh, you have your call, okay. Alex Kaplan. Where's your call? Karen Perez Wilson.
Tanvi Kanatkar. Cindy Bozon Late. Malika Kitmati Laba. Fabiola Masis. Shakruk Rakimov. Nicholas Seidenberg. Taehoon Kwan. Sukesh Sandareddy. Taryn Soya. Fananya Apawa. Tinashe Hofisi.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more round of applause for the UW class of 2024.
Thank you all. Congratulations, graduates. We can't wait to hear about the great things you will do. All of us are so honored to have been part of your journey. And our sincerest thanks again to our audience members. As family and friends of our graduates, you played a huge role in getting them to this point. Thank you for joining us in person and virtually for today's ceremony. At this time, Dean Scheller and I will lead the recessional, starting with the faculty on stage, followed by the graduates. Guests, we ask that you please remain seated until the faculty and graduates have exited the exhibition hall. Graduates, ushers will assist you during the recession by releasing your row when it is time. And everyone, after the ceremony concludes, we invite you to join us for a reception outside on the roof of the Monona Terrace. Thank you all.